Hello everyone, this is Sincere, a Teacher Sincere's channel, and welcome once again. Alright, so before I get started with this video, if you do hear something that sounds like gunfire in the background, what it actually is are fireworks, because I'm filming this on 4th of July night, and for those of you that are not American, 4th of July is Independence Day here in the United States. So this was a holiday today, so I decided to go ahead and do my video tonight. But anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I wanted to show a couple of interesting video clips that I've wanted to do for quite some time now. Now, when I was growing up, you hardly ever heard anything about cancer. Now, cancer is one of the leading killers here in the United States. I've had a number of family members that have battled cancer. I had uncles to die of it, from like lung cancer and different types of cancer. One of my beloved uncles that I really, really loved on my mother's side of the family, that, you know, he basically, it was almost like he kind of raised me, because he lived with my parents. He was younger. He was one of my mother's younger brothers. And when he finished high school and he wanted to find work, he actually lived with my parents until he could get work and be on his own. Also, when my baby brother, or my younger brother, was born, I remember I was 6 years old, and my uncle came and picked me up and took me to stay with my grandparents until my grandmother could come up and help my mother out after she came back from the hospital. So but he actually, he died about 2-3 years after he retired, after he closed his business, and he died at a young age. He was only about 63, I think, 64. And he died the same year that his mother, my grandmother, died. He died like on like that Christmas Day of 2000, I think it was 2005. And my grandmother died the next day, and she didn't even know her son had cancer. She had battled cancer. She actually had colon cancer, but they were able to remove it via surgery. But her being over 90, she was 93 years old, she never was quite herself again. She basically forgot how to eat and everything. But it's a long story. And my uncle, he developed a sarcoma. You know, they did chemotherapy on him, but this was too advanced. Sarcoma was a rare cancer, and he was told that the sarcoma for someone his age, it was rare. It usually was in children would have that type of cancer, and also people that were European descent, which my grandfather was actually mixed race. So so my uncle was mixed, of course. So but yeah, cancer is a really big killer in the United States, and it's big business. And one thing the pharmaceutical companies don't want is for people to find alternative ways to deal with cancer. But now, I'm not an expert on this. I didn't go to school for medicine, but I just wanted to share a couple of clips that I thought were very interesting. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what are the causes of cancers, and I'm going to add in another thing that I want to bring up, which is connected to the video clips that I want to share. Okay, so let's begin. Now, before I show you the video clips that I want to share with you and then make a little bit of commentary about them, I want to talk about some common causes of cancer. Okay, so I have up here little charts that I've made. Okay, so now, of course, you all have heard about smoking and tobacco. Now, obesity and weight. Now, I think it's when they started the body positivity thing, I was thinking, I don't know how wise this is, okay? Because the thing is this, and I know people don't like to hear the truth, but well, a lot of people don't, that is. If you are encouraging people, telling people, oh, you're beautiful, even though you're way too overweight, you're too big. The thing is this, you run a risk of developing a lot of different types of diseases, heart disease, problems with your joints, knee problems, a lot of stuff, if you're a young person, it's all well and good to tell people this, but it is a risk. Okay. And I just think it's kind of disingenuous anyway. It's just not being smart to tell people that, you're beautiful, even though you don't have to say to anybody they're ugly, but you should, instead of doing that, you should be encouraging them to lose weight, because obesity can be a cause of cancer as well. So we really need to think about, when people come up with these different trends in the media, and this sounds good, and we want to all be nice and courteous, but it's fake courtesy, because it's really, the thing to do is encourage people. If you have a friend or family member that is overweight, not to put them down and make them, it's ways to do things. You don't have to put them down, but you need to encourage them to try to get the weight off, because in the long run, it will pay off with their health. Because cancer and obesity, they do go together. Sun and ultraviolet light. So you want to be careful about when you're out in the sun. Now, there was a report back a few years ago about people using sunscreen, and that some of the sunscreens were problematic. So, what I think is the best thing to do is just wear long sleeves, cover up. And when you're in the sun, if you're working in the sun, wear long sleeves, wear things, long pants on your legs, all of that, to cover up, instead of putting chemicals on your body. Next is diet. Very important to eat natural foods, not processed, man-made or human-made food. Things that come from the tree, from the earth. Those are things that we need to eat. We need to focus on. I'm not a vegan or vegetarian. I'm not anti-meat. I do eat a little bit of meat, maybe a little bit less than maybe the average American, because Americans eat a lot of meat. But you can do it, sensible. I prefer, like, I bake my chicken. I don't fry it anymore. I don't fry chicken. I bake it. Eat a little bit of beef. Fish is good. So you want your diet to be as natural as possible, because, you have artificial things with all these chemicals. It just cannot be broken down in a natural way, the way natural food, organic food, can be broken down. Okay. All right. Now, the next I want to mention alcohol. The first time I heard of a family member having cancer was one of my father's brothers, my uncle. And this uncle, he drank a lot. Okay. He had a pretty tough, rough, he lived in New York, and he lived that racy race, that fast track type of lifestyle. And he developed cancer. And the first time I heard about radiation treatment was he got radiation treatment. So alcohol is definitely consideration. I don't drink alcohol. I'm Christian, but I'm almost like a devout Muslim on certain things. All right. So and then infections. There are different types of infections that you could develop that will cause cancer. Workplace, for example, chemicals. Now, my uncle that I talked about previously, that I was very close to, and I just, he was just, just a person, a good soul. He was a good person, a good man. He and his wife were older parents. They had been married for years, and didn't think that they'd ever have children, and they became parents in their late 40s. And so my uncle, he had a woodworking business, and he had worked with wood, and worked with different chemicals, staining and painting wood, staining wood, all this kind of stuff. So I wondered, when he developed cancer, whether it could have actually came from the chemicals that he had worked with in his business. Air pollution and radon gas. Okay, so if you live in a big city where there's a lot of pollution, there's, you live in somewhere like maybe India somewhere, maybe Mumbai or somewhere, you run a bigger risk of cancer with all the, particles and things in the air. Inherited cancer genes. Back a number of years ago when I was teaching in Turkey, my then boss, his mother and his father both died of cancer. Okay. And he also had another family member at the same time that was battling cancer. He was saying that I'll likely end up dying of cancer myself. He said, I think it's I asked him, I said, why is there so much cancer in your family? He said, I believe we got a cancer gene. He said, I really think we have a cancer gene. And he said, I won't be surprised if I end up getting cancer. Yeah, possibly. Also, he lived in a city in Turkey that was an industrial city. So could it possibly everybody, his family members that died of cancer, they lived in that city. So could it possibly be that there were some chemicals maybe in from the industry there that may have caused cancer? Possibly, So yeah, so it could be that, or they may have had a cancer gene. Old age cancers. My father had a cancer scare a few years before he died. And I was telling a friend of mine about it that's a dentist in Iraq. We met through Goodreads, fellow book lovers and stuff. So, but I was telling her about the situation with my dad, and she was saying that, well, a lot of times old people will develop these slow moving cancers. But as it turns out, my father didn't have cancer. When he did die, he died of some other ailments, but not cancer. But I felt he was at risk of cancer because my father was overweight. He was very much overweight. He had gotten old, but amazingly, he did not develop cancer. Now, before I show the clips, and that I'm going to talk about a little bit, I want to mention too. I think another big factor in cancer, why we see so much cancer now in the world, is because in a lot of societies now that are urbanized, fast paced, people are under a lot of stress and anxiety. We don't live the kind of more balanced existence that people did when society was much more agrarian, 100 years ago and back. And then of course there's things with diet, particularly here in the United States. Food has changed a lot since I was a child. There was no GMO foods, no genetically modified organisms when I was a child, not that I knew of. You only heard about that later. When you would buy fruit and vegetables and fruit, you would see the seeds and everything. Now you don't hardly ever see any seeds. Just about everything has been tampered with. And also another thing, a lot of the meat, some of the meats like the sausages and stuff, have been processed with sodium nitrite. Sodium nitrite will cause cancers. A lot of people don't drink enough water, and they drink things like soda, and these things are not good for your health. So when I look back at how people's diets have changed a lot since I was a child, what is on the shelves now in the stores, there's very good reason to think that what we consume, particularly here in the United States, is a big cause of why we have such a high rate of cancer. I was also told something interestingly enough by a friend that was native Iraqi but didn't live in Iraq anymore, that previous to the U.S. invasion of his country, Iraq, there was cancer was very rare in that country. But after the invasion, and I'd heard a lot and read a lot about depleted uranium and things like that in places like Fallujah, where the United States bombed for like months at a time. Cancer and birth defects just really started raging. And they never talk about the pollution created by wars. You'll hear about cars and all these other things, factories or whatever, but you don't hear about the pollution caused by war, because war is something that they want to continuously do. And war is big business. It's at the end of the day, it has very little to do with about freedom or who is a dictator and all this stuff. It's just a lot of, just talk to get the masses, stirred up and to go along with what, the ruling class wants. So, in the end, it's, war produces a lot of pollution. Okay. And, I was not, because when he told me this, I was kind of not surprised, because I had read at that time, and this was way back before there was as much, material and information on the internet. I had read about depleted uranium. And so, excuse me. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. But now I'm going to show 2 video clips, okay? And I'm going to do a little bit of commentary about these, okay? And this has to do with cancer, okay? And I think these are really rather interesting. So this is why I want to share these, okay? So let's get going with these. Now, the first video I want to show you, or a clip rather, is of a woman named Elmira Alieva. Elmira Alieva was I don't know if she's still alive or not, but she was a Dagestani woman. Now, Dagestan is one of the Russian republics. It's in the it's a southern republic on the Caspian Sea, between the Caspian Sea and the country of Georgia. And so what happened with Elmira Alieva, she developed cancer, and it was terminal. And she, didn't have long to live. So what she did was something really radical and extreme. Now, she was a married woman. She had children, and she did not want her children to see her suffer and die. She was, and I'll show you the clip, and she'll talk some about her story, and I'll put the link in the chat, in the description, so that you can see more, see the entire video. But she decided to leave her family, and she left them for 10 years. And what she did, she moved into the wilderness, and she lived all alone up in the mountains. And she only lived on just natural things and roots and mushrooms and things. There were some kind shepherds that gave her somewhere to stay. And she just ate just natural stuff from the earth. And her cancer went away. She finally went back to her family after 10 years of living alone. And, when I first heard her story, I said, well, this makes sense, because, if you're a parent, or, whatever, you're working, life is stressful, and stuff. Life is not some fairy tale. And, people put demands on you, and people want things and different stuff like that. And, a lot of times, as females, a lot of times we give and give and give, and, don't get too much back. I have a student that lives near Syria, that lives near the city of Mardin in southeastern Turkey, near Syria. And she lives it's in Mesopotamia. And she was telling me the other day that, everybody just wants, always wants something from me. They don't give anything, but they always want something from me. I said, well, it's because you're smart and, and stuff. She is a owner of a pharmacy. She has her own pharmacy. She's just 26 years old. And she owns her own pharmacy. She has men working for her. She actually showed me her pharmacy the other week, and I saw some of her employees, and they were waving and smiling. And, but she, she's under a lot of pressure, and people are taking from her, she feels, and giving so little in return. They always want to run to her for everything, she says. So yeah, I can understand, we've been under so much stress. And it's almost like when you're under stress, it's like your body seizes up. And I can understand about something like this. But, of course, she missed seeing her children grow up because she was gone for 10 years. But she went on back to her family. And I just want to show you this about this woman. There are people that claim that they can cure cancer. There is one of my Facebook friends that lives in northern Nigeria claimed, when I told him that, back several years ago, that my uncle had cancer. He said, you should bring him here. We can cure him. I don't know. But like I said, it's just something to think about. And I'm not saying this stuff is for sure. I'm just presenting this as just food for thought, and something that I find very, very interesting. All right. So let's go to the video about Elmira.
С вечера, все люди от этого слова рак боятся. Метастаза 3-й степени, таз, позвоночник. У меня шли такие адские боли, вот даже я не могла хоть под уколами, все равно я, наверное, рыдала, кричала. Не хотела, чтобы на меня дети смотрели и страдали. Как я страдаю, как мне больно, чтобы на меня смотрели. Зимой и летом круглый год питаюсь плодами со деревьев. В данное время зимой шиповники есть.
The next video clip that I want to share is from someone that I know, at least virtually, and a former student, okay? This person is, he goes by the nickname of Langta. This is who I taught him for about, I guess around 2 years or so. Maybe about 2 years. And Langta lives in Thailand. And he is an oncologist, formerly an engineer. And he is a Buddhist monk. And he runs a hospice for people with cancer. Now, I'm going to show you a video clip with Langta. Okay, he goes, his full name, it's a long name. Thai names are long, okay? On his Facebook page, he goes by, I guess it's Phra, Paponpatchara, Pibanpaknitee. I'm trying to sound it out, okay? But Langta, yeah. Now, Langta told me himself when he was my student. He told me that he had battled cancer. He told me just the way he tells the lady in this video. And you may have some difficulty understanding him. I'm not going to run the video very long because he has a very sort of high voice and very, very high voice at times. It's sort of difficult with his accent to understand him. But I don't have any problems understanding him. I taught him for, like I say, at least 2 years. But Langta said that he cured himself the natural way from cancer. That he basically used herbs and prayer, and the cancer went away. And he runs a hospice, people around the world. Now, I think many of his patients are Thai, but he also has people from other countries. I've seen on his Facebook page, people that either were European or American. He said he has American people come, people as far away as, Japan. Japan's in Asia, and the Far East. And also, the last time I spoke with him, he told me that, and he showed me some pictures, on his Facebook page. He sent them to me. He got, I think this probably was the first time that he had an Arab patient, and he showed the clip when he was talking to the son, the adult son. His father was suffering from cancer, and so they had come all the way to Thailand for his father to get some sort of treatment, and they were from Kuwait. I asked him, I said, they're Arab, aren't they? Because he didn't tell me initially, and he said, yeah, that they're from Kuwait, and so but Langta says that he cured himself of cancer. Okay. And like I said, I am not a doctor. Now, I am interested, very much so, in natural healing. I did a video months ago talking about rosewater, organic rosewater. And I think that rosewater actually cured me of asthma. I suffered from asthma for a number of years. It started after I had pneumonia back in... Okay. I think my video almost went out. Yeah, the lights almost went out. Okay. But yeah, I started having problems with asthma after having a bout of pneumonia in 2001, where I had to be hospitalized. And so, I changed over to Rosewater when it got to be so expensive. I did some research on my own and on the internet and read articles and ran across some articles, and also an article from a medical journal that was written in Iran. And so I started using organic rose water, and putting it in water and drinking it. And it would stop, asthma attack just like that. And I continued to do that, as needed. And I don't have problems with asthma anymore. So, but that's another story, and I'll put the link in the video, in my description of, that old video where I talk about, using organic rose water. All right. So let's look at the video, with, my former student Langton, and then just a little bit of commentary.
About before, in the former time, I have a cancer in my cell. Yeah, and after that, after I treat from medical, I from the hospital, and after that, I found that there is no way to cure me. I turned back to my temple and sit meditation all night, and have to find about remedy of cancer. Yeah, in here, remedy. 11 specification for treat cancer, and in the former time I treat myself. After 5 pots of this can cure me very well. After scan computer, after check by medical side, is no cancer in my body.
So you see. All right. So you've seen the 2 videos. I think in this postmodern era, things are so, people are so much now is not natural. Okay. People gravitate toward the unnatural, and I don't know why. It's strange to me. Maybe it's my generation, but there's people in my generation that are into some really strange stuff. But I think, that the more natural, if we can go back to being more natural beings, more natural being, get more in tune with what we really are, okay, what our purpose is here on life and stuff. Some of the problems with cancer might just go away, okay. I think that we can maybe possibly think our way into illness. It may not necessarily be cancer, but we can think our way into illness. So we have to really be mindful of the way that we're thinking and we're living. And we have to be careful about the kind of people that we're around, okay? Because I know, we live in a time now where people feel like, well, people are just people and we can just accept anybody. No, not really. We can't just accept anybody, and people are not just people, okay? There are people out here that are toxic and do not have our best interests at heart, okay? That do not care about us. And so we have to learn how to navigate through here in this life and know, the things that we should deal with and the things we should not deal with, and the people that we should let in and the people we shouldn't let in. We can't just embrace everybody. Okay. I know it, it's all feels right. All this cuddly, touchy-feely type of thinking is the way a lot of people do, but it's very naive. And we have to be, I really think like Jesus said, I think he said we have to be, as wise as serpents and gentle as doves. We do. We have to develop wisdom and things like that. Now, of course, there are things that happen like with my family members and like with my grandmother, developing cancer, probably because of old age. Okay. She developed colon cancer. My grandmother also loved her cheese and things like that. So that might have sort of did something as well. And then my uncle. So there are some things, we just at the time, don't. But our thinking can really affect our health. It really can. And so we have to really get a grip on and be very mindful and watchful of, what we're going to do. All right. So I just wanted to share these interesting clips on this video. I've been planning to do this for quite some time. and let you see something that I find very highly interesting. And you know, like I said, I'm not saying that I'm not a doctor. I've never suffered from cancer. I've had other ailments myself, but I haven't had cancer. But I've had cancer in my family. So I just want to share that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to end here. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. So this is Sincere. Until next time.